This pertains to the golf course. There is no contract or any other paperwork authorizing the transfer of food, beverage, and liquor operation at the links from Meadowbrook to another company. What we don't have, and the public doesn't have, you don't have, does the solicitor have? The agreement between Morgan and Meadowbrook. They're operational. They're selling liquor. They're going through the whole thing. There's nothing in writing.
That, and if I may pick up on what you said, that is what I asked for on April 1st. On April 1st, I learned for the first time during our executive session before the regular meeting that there had been a deal struck between Meadowbrook and a food and beverage operator. I'm not sure what the name of the entity is. We all know who it is. I asked Nathan from the golf course before the meeting, is there an agreement? His answer was yes. I asked during the meeting, has anyone on this council seen the agreement? The answer across the board was no. I asked, can we get that agreement? I directed, I believe, to Ed. As a council member, I certainly want to know if my licensee, and that Meadowbrook is our licensee for the concessionaire's license, is handling the licensing subcontracting the way that the law says they have to. That's one concern. The second concern I have, which I don't know until I see that agreement, is has Meadowbrook undertaken responsibilities to the subcontractor that are ultimately going to be the responsibility of the city, which may or may not be within the scope of what Meadowbrook is allowed to do under the management agreement. A pretty important question, particularly when I understand there's quite a bit of work going on up there. So, these are questions that are council questions that I think can't be answered except through the agreement which exists, and yet now we're 2 weeks further out, nobody has it. Why is that so difficult? Why can we not simply reach out to either our local contact at Meadowbrook or somebody at Meadowbrook's office in Florida and say, where is the signed agreement? Because I certainly don't believe that what's happening at the golf course is happening on the basis of a handshake or, mutual oral agreement. I am quite sure there's a written agreement, and I was told there was a written agreement. So what's the hang-up? Let's see it. If they're operating right now in a way that's not consistent with state liquor license, that's on us. We are the party that owns that right for a concessionaire's license. It simply gets operated through a management company. We need to know if they're doing it right. We need to know if there are obligations that have been undertaken outside the authority of Meadowbrook on behalf of a subcontractor.
Well, Mr. Scerni, have you seen the agreement?
Sure.
You have?
Okay,
It's public.
Excuse me. I'll answer the question, and then if you have a comment, you can direct it to the mayor and council.
I was directing it to council,
Oh,
Well, I'm
Mr.
just
Scerni.
I'm trying to listen to the solicitor, and you're interjecting. So could you let the solicitor, you ask a question, we're trying to answer it. So if you could just hold your comments until we get a comment from Mr. Scerni.
Fine.
Mr. Scerni.
We approved the Meadowbrook deal between the municipality and Meadowbrook at the March meeting. It arose at the April 1st meeting that Meadowbrook had a deal with a vendor, and the question about a contract came up at that point in time. In response to that discussion, I assume, a contract was sent to me, I think it was the next day, which would have been the Thursday before Easter. I looked at it, I didn't like it. So I picked up the phone, called the principal of Meadowbrook in Florida, said, this agreement will not be satisfactory to the city. I'm not even going to take it to them. You should fix some things. During the course of the next week, apparently they did some renegotiation. And as we went from last week into this week, I have now heard from an attorney who was representing the vendor, who was filing applications with the ABC. And in the meantime, another form of agreement came out. I told that attorney that while it was a better agreement, there were still some additional things that I anticipated that the municipality would require. So at the moment, there's a back and forth between my office and that attorney because he's going to make the corrections. When we have the agreement in a form that I think I can bring to council that you may be willing to approve or want to comment upon, we'll bring it in. But now there is an attorney on the other side who is on the other side. By the way, we are not party to this agreement. We have the right ultimately to approve it, and that's a good thing. And when they get to a point where they have an agreement, it'll come here. And they are filing with the ABC.
But then how is the vendor operating now? Without an agreement?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
How is the vendor operating now with no agreement with Meadowbrook?
I do not know what risks they are assuming in terms of not having locked down their deal in a writing. I mean, we're not involved in that. As to the alcohol part of it, which from the municipality's point of view, I believe is probably the more critical issue, my understanding from speaking with the attorney is that the alcohol phase of this right now is still controlled by Meadowbrook until such time as there is some resolution in terms of the subcontractor with the ABC. As an aside, I also heard the ABC was out there. So it's not as though this is being ignored by the ABC.
All right. Fred, is there some reason why we, members of council who wish to see it, could not see the form of agreement that was first proffered to you? With the understanding, of course, it's not to be publicized. But I would like to see what was the agreement struck by these two parties with no input at all from the city. And I'd also like to see, because this whole thing sounds like a total botch job at the moment, I would like to see what it is that they are doing. What are the actual procedures and mechanics that, if in fact what's happening is that Meadowbrook is still running the alcohol service, how is that being done? You know, we're the guys who get jammed up on this if there's a problem with ABC. Nobody else.
Then, I mean, I suppose that then is an ABC question, because, I mean, I have not engaged these folks to actually structure the agreement for them. I don't think that's my role. I now have a competent attorney who is representing the subcontractor who does ABC work, who is working with the ABC, and is telling me that his client has not assumed the ABC obligation at this point until he gets filed with ABC.
And it's all very nice and reassuring. Is there a reason why we, I won't speak for anyone else, they may not care. I would like to see that agreement that was first provided to you that was unacceptable to you.
If you would like to see it, you can see it. I didn't bother bringing it here because it was not a document. It was not a document that I even found acceptable, and I kicked it back and said, you people have to fix this. This is not something that the city will do.
Right. Well, and I appreciate your attention to that. I would simply like for you to email me that, and if you would also email me, I assume you did it by email when you told them it was not acceptable, unless it was oral, in which case, never mind. But if you emailed them...
I have not done any writing on these things.
Right.
I have told them on the phone what it is that I think.
That's fine. Well, then, what I would like for you to do is please email me whatever versions of this agreement or proposed agreement that you've been given to this point.
Well, I would like to ask the legal question whether I or any other member of council is entitled to have a legal document between two individuals that is a work in progress.
That is a difficult question, because if we put this into the public side, is it subject to Oprah?
This is not being put into the public side. We're talking about a matter...
Anything you have, Mr. DeLuca,
No.
in your email is in the public side.
Phil, that is not so. If I email on a matter that involves a litigative matter with Fred Scerni, that's not something that's going to be discoverable. The question I have is, since the city is, as I understand what was just said by Mr. Scerni, ultimately an interested party, there's no question about that, it's our license, we are an interested party, and ultimately will have to approve the form of agreement. Clearly, the negotiations of that agreement involve the city. Whether or not Fred gets directly involved in suggesting or not suggesting terms is completely apart. The important thing is we are an interested party. He, as Fred, as our attorney, is being copied on things and is having input to help guide them to some resolution. I'm the client. We're all the client. There is no reason why my attorney can't share with me an update on what is going on in terms of the negotiations to which he is a party. So, I'm not seeing a hang-up on that, and I can't think of any good policy reason why the members of council would want to stay in the dark as to what this agreement is evolving into.
I don't want to stay in the dark, but I want to let our attorney do his job and then come back and present us with something that
But-
we will ultimately approve or not approve.
And giving me what I'm asking for has no impact at all on Fred's ability to do that job.